And I don't see nothing. Um, Here we have another part of the book. Key to the character. The siren is the most ancient seductress of them all. Her prototype is the goddess Aphrodite. It's her nature to have mythic quality about her, but not but do not imagine she's a thing of the past of or legend and history. She represents powerful male fantasy of highly sexual supremely confident. Alluring female offering endless pleasure and a bit of danger. In today's world, this fantasy can only appeal the more strongly to the male psyche, for now more than ever he lives in a world that circumscribes his aggressive instincts by making everything safe and secure. A world that offers less chance for adventure and risk than ever before. In the past, a man had some outlets for these drives: warfare, the high seas, political intrigue. In the sexual realm, courtesans and mistresses were practically a social institution. But now, ay, güey, déjala, güey. Güey, déjala, güey. Practical social institution and offer restrictions to cover them. With For now more than ever he lives in a world that circumscribes his aggressive instincts by making everything safe and secure, a world that offers less chance for adventure, risk than ever before. In the past a man had some outlets for these drives: warfare, the high seas, political intrigue. In the sexual realm, courtesans and mistresses were practically a social institution, and offered him the variety of the chase that he craved. Without any outlets, his drives turned inward and gnawed at him, becoming all the more volatile of being repressed. Something a powerful man will do the most irrational things: have an affair when is least called for, have an affair when it is least called for, just for a thrill, the danger of it all. The rational can prove immensely seductive, even more so for men who must always seem so reasonable. If it's seductive power If it is seductive power you are after, the siren is the most potent of all. She operates on a man's on a man's most basic emotion, and she plays her role properly. She can transform normally strong and responsible men into a childish slave. The siren operates well on the right masculine type, the soldier or hero, just as Cleopatra overwhelmed Mark Antony and Marilyn Monroe Joe DiMaggio. But never imagine that these are the only types that science can affect. Julius Caesar was a writer and thinker who had transferred his intellectual abilities onto a battlefield and into the political arena. The playwright Arthur Miller fell as deeply under Monroe's spell as DiMaggio. The intellectual is often the most susceptible of the siren call of pure physical pleasure, because his life so lacks it. The siren does not have to worry about finding the right victim. Her magic works on one and all. First and foremost, a siren must distinguish herself from other women. She is by nature a rare thing, mythic, only one to a group. She is also unavoidable price to be wrested away from other men. Cleopatra made herself different through her sense of high drama. The Empress Josephine Bonaparte's device was her extreme languorousness. Marilyn Monroe's was her little girl quality. Physicality offers the best opportunities here, since a siren is preeminently a sight to behold, highly feminine and sexual presence, even to the point of caricature, will quickly differentiate you, since most women lack the confidence to project such an image. Once the siren has made herself stand out from others, she must offer two other critical qualities: the ability to get the male to pursue her so feverishly that he loses control and touch of the dangerous, and a touch of the dangerous danger is surprisingly seductive. To get the male to pursue you is relatively simple. A highly sexual presence will do this quite well, but you must not resemble a courtesan or whore whom the male may pursue only to quickly lose interest in her. Instead, you are slightly elusive and distant, a fantasy come to life. During the Renaissance, the great sirens such as Tulia di Aragona will act and look like Grecian goddess, the fantasy of the day. Today, you might model yourself on a film goddess, anything that seems larger than life, even awe-inspiring. These qualities will make a man chase you vehemently. The more he chases, the more he will feel that he's acting on his own initiative. This is an excellent way of discussing how deeply you are manipulating him. The notion of danger, a challenge sometimes that might seem outdated, but danger is critical in seduction. It adds emotional spice and is particularly appealing to men today, who are normally so rational and repressed. Danger is present in the original myth of the siren. In Homer's Odyssey, the hero Odysseus must sail by rocks where the sirens, strange female creatures sang and beckoned sailors to the destruction. They sing of the glories of the past, of the world like childhood without responsibilities, a world of pleasure. Their voices were like water, liquid and inviting. Sailors will leap into the water to join them, and drown or distracted and entranced they will steer their ship into the rocks to protect his sailor from the sirens. Odysseus has their ears filled with wax. He himself is tied to the mast so he can both hear the sirens and live to tell of it. A strange desire, since the thrill of the sirens is given in to the temptation to follow them. Just as an ancient sailors had to row and steer ignoring all distraction, a man today must work and follow a straight path in life. The call of something dangerous, emotional, unknown is all the more powerful because it is so forbidden. Think of the victims of the great sirens of history. Paris causes a war for the sake of Helena Troy. Caesar risks an empire and a laughingstock over Josephine. And Antony loses his power and his life for Cleopatra. Napoleon becomes a laughingstock over Josephine. DiMaggio never gets over Marilyn, and Arthur Miller can't write for years. A man is often ruined by a siren, yet cannot tear himself away. Many powerful men have a masochistic streak. An element of danger is easy to hint at and will enhance your other silent characteristics. The touch of madness in Marilyn, for example, that pull men in. Sirens are often fantastically irrational, which is immensely attractive to men who are oppressed by their own reasonableness. An element of fear is so critical. Keeping a man at proper distance creates respect so that he doesn't get close enough to see through to you or notice your weaker qualities. Create such fear by suddenly changing your moods, keeping the man off balance, occasionally intimidating him with capricious behavior. The most important element for an aspiring siren is always the siren's main instrument of power. Physical qualities, uh, essence, hidden femininity evoked through makeup or through elaborate or seductive clothing act all the more powerful on men because they have no meaning in their immediacy. They bypass rational processes, having the same effect that the coil has on an animal, or the movement of a cape on a bull. The proper siren appearance is often confused with physical beauty, particularly the face, but a beautiful face does not a siren make. Instead, it creates too much distance and coldness. Neither Cleopatra nor Marilyn Monroe, the two greatest sirens in history, were known for their beautiful faces, although a smile and an inviting look are infinitely seductive. They must never dominate your appearance. They are too obvious and direct. The siren must stimulate a generalized desire, and the best way to do this by creating an overall impression that is both distracting and alluring, and it's not one particular trait but a combination of qualities. Of qualities. We have, where are we? The, the voice, clearly a critical quality, as the legend indicates. The siren's voice has an immediate animal presence with incredible suggestive power. Perhaps that power is regressive, recalling the ability of the mother's voice to calm or excite her child, even before the child understood what she was saying. The siren must have an insinuating voice that hints at the erotic more often subliminally than overtly. Almost everyone who met Cleopatra commented on her delightful, sweet-sounding voice, which had a mesmerizing quality. The Empress Josephine, one of the great seductresses of the late 18th century, had a languorous voice that men found exotic and suggestive of her Creole origins. Marilyn Monroe was born with her breathy, childlike voice, but she learned to lower to make it truly seductive. Lawrence Bacall's voice is naturally low. Its seductive power comes from its slow, suggestive delivery. The siren never speaks quickly, aggressively, or at high pitch. Her voice is calm and unhurried, as if she had never quite woken up or left her bed. Body and adornment. If the voice must lull, the body and its adornment must dazzle. It is with her clothes that the siren aims to create the goddess effect that Baudelaire described in his essay "In Praise of Makeup." Woman is well within her rights, and indeed she is accomplishing a kind of duty in striving to appear magical and supernatural. She must astonish and bewitch an idol. She must adorn herself with gold, and in order to be adored, she must borrow from all the arts in order to raise herself above nature, the better to subjugate hearts and steer souls. A siren who was a genius of clothes and adornment was Pauline Bonaparte, sister of Napoleon. Pauline consciously strove for a goddess effect, fashioning hair, makeup, and clothes to evoke the look and air of Venus, the goddess of love. No one in history could boast a more extensive and elaborate wardrobe. Pauline's entrance at the ball in 1798 created an astounding effect. She asked the hostess, Madame Permon, if she could dress at her house, so no one would see her clothes as she came. When she came down the stairs, everyone stopped dead in stone silence. She wore the headdress of Bacchante, clusters of gold grapes interlacing her hair, which was done up in the Greek style. Her Greek tunic, with its gold-embroidered hem, showed off her goddess-like figure. Below her breast was a girdle of burnished gold, held by magnificent jewel. No words can convey the loveliness of her appearance, wrote the Duchess d'Abrantes. The very room grew brighter as she entered. The whole ensemble was so harmonious that her appearance was greeted with a buzz of admiration which continued with utter disregard of all the other women. The key: everything must dazzle, but must also be harmonious, so that no single ornament draws attention. Your presence must be charged larger than life, a fantasy come true. Ornament is used to cast a spell and distract. The siren can also use clothing to hint at the sexual, at times openly, but more often by suggesting it rather than screaming it. That will make you seem manipulative. Related to this is the notion of selective disclosure, the revealing of only a part of the body, but a part that will excite and stir the imagination. And in the late 16th century, Marguerite de Valois, the infamous daughter of Queen Catherine de Medici of France, was one of the first women ever to incorporate decolletage in her wardrobe, simply because she had the most beautiful breasts in the realm. For Josephine Bonaparte, it was her arms, which she carefully always left bare. Movement and demeanor. In the 5th century BC, King Ku Cheng chose the Chinese siren He-Shi-Shi from among of the women of his realm to seduce and destroy his rival Fu Chai, king of Wu. For this purpose, he had the young woman instructed in the art of seduction. Most important of this was movement, how they moved gracefully and suggestively. She learned to give the impression of floating across the floor in her court robes. When she was finally unleashed on Fushai, he quickly fell under her spell. She walked and moved like one he had ever seen. She walked and moved like no one he had ever seen. He became obsessed with her tremulous presence, her manner and nonchalant air. Fu Chai fell so deeply in love that he let his kingdom fall to pieces, allowing Ku Qin to march in and conquer it without fight. The siren moves gracefully and unhurriedly. The proper gestures, movement, and demeanor for a siren are like the proper voice. They hint at something exciting, stirring desire without being obvious. Your air must be languorous, as if you had all the time in the world for love and pleasure. Your gestures must have a certain ambiguity, suggesting something both innocent and erotic. Anything that cannot immediately be understood is supremely seductive, and all the more so if it permeates your manner.